So if you have to make that big decision this year, whether you should be buying a house or renting a house, let me walk you through a simple scenario so it sort of guides you on what type of decisions you need to be making. If you've worked hard all of your career, maybe you worked hard last 10 years, you've been able to save up some money, you've saved up to about 100 million, you now want to make that decision. Should you keep investing your money or should you buy a house? Now, what you have to keep in mind to make that decision is what is the investment income I can earn on that 100 million if I put that in a fixed deposit versus what is the rental yield I can generate from that property if I buy the house. So typically your rental yield in Nigeria is sort of around 3 to 5%. We'll take 5% for this example. And for the investment, today you can pretty much earn as much as 20% on that 100 million naira investment. So what the likely outcome will be for two people who make different decision. One person says, okay, I'm going to buy the house for 100 million. The person is only going to be able to earn 5 million naira worth of rent on that property. While for the other guy who says, okay, I'm going to invest my 100 million, the person is only going to make a 20% return, which will give him 20 million naira. And this is 5 million. This is 20 million. The decision sort of plays itself out because the guy with the 20 million can rent that property from the guy who uses his own money to buy a property worth 100 million. He takes his 20 million naira, pays the guy the 5 million naira, and still has 15 million naira that he can add to his 100 million to reinvest for the next year. You see, as opposed to the other guy who owns this property and is now dependent on price appreciation of the property for him to get growth in his wealth. Now, appreciation is very volatile and uncertain, so he doesn't know by what percent that's going to rise over time. But the first guy is more certain. He can predict his future income, and perhaps, or most likely, he's going to end up being the happier of the two of them. Now, there is a second question of, should he borrow money to buy the house? Now, typically, if you're going to borrow money to buy a house or take a mortgage out to buy a house, you need to be very careful, because to be able to afford the mortgage, you're going to have to spread that payment over 10, 15, 20 years. So let's take, for example, you want to take a mortgage for 10 years to buy a property. What you need to ensure is that the monthly mortgage payment is not greater than 25% of your income. This is because you also need to still be able to save money while you're paying your mortgage. Because if you don't save while you're paying your mortgage, if anything happens to that job, you will then be thrown into a state of financial distress. Because if you miss your mortgage payments, you might get foreclosed on the house. So you have to be very careful, so that you build enough savings over time. So if anything happens to that job, you're able to continue paying on that mortgage payment, which is why you have to ensure that the percentage of the mortgage payment on your total income is very low. If you're like me and you want to eat your cake and have it, here's a simple strategy you can do. If you took your 100 million that you have saved and you invested it at 20%, you'll be able to take 20 million naira in interest. Here's what you do. Secondly, the next thing you want to do is that you take 100 million naira to buy that property on a 20-year mortgage tenor. So 20-year mortgage means that you only have to pay the principal about 5 million naira every year rather, which is 100 million divided by 5. But you have to make sure that your mortgage interest is not more than 10% per year. 10% interest on 100 million is about 10 million naira. You add that with your 5 million naira principal, you're pretty much paying about 15 million naira per annum on your mortgage. Remember, you invested 100 million of your own money and you're earning 20 million a year. You can take 15 million out of that to pay your mortgage every year for the next 20 years while you hold on to the remaining 5 million. You see, with that, With that strategy, you have your 100 million naira, you have a house that you can live in that is your own, and you still have 5 million naira every year that you can spend on yourself and your family. So that's a little bit of investment strategy that you can deploy. There's a bit of risk in it. It's not fireproof. It is that every year you may not be able to get 20% return. So that's a bit of risk that you have to keep in mind. And you have to make sure that you're getting a house in an environment where you're happy to live for the next 20 years, so that you're not thinking, oh, what if I want to move out or live somewhere else? You've committed to the house. Is really, really important that you're living in it and you're not paying rent somewhere else. If not, you have to be bringing out rent money from another place, which will then mess up your finances. So I think this is a very simple way that you can eat your cake and have it. It's a really, really interesting way. I've oversimplified mortgage facility. You have to look at the fine print on your mortgage loan when you're taking them out. Try and make sure that all your maths adds up and everything that you have to pay in your mortgage payment every year is below the investment income that you expect to earn every year on that investment that you've made. So that's a simple strategy to eat your cake and have it. So guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more, please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me on my socials.